Secret House Against Tokyo-based hip-hop art and culture conversations. We out here, me and Jet. And today we're here to discuss some things. The Blu and Nottz collaborative project, Afrika EP. Came out on the 8th, so we're not too late on this. So we be late sometimes, but we're not too late on this. 10 songs, 44 minutes. It's a second collaborative project from Blu and Nottz, a follow-up to their maybe 2016, 17 project. I don't remember the name of it, and I could have done better on making notes for that. But to be honest with you, I was thinking a lot about this album, and I wasn't necessarily thinking about the previous projects. But we did just discuss Blu earlier this year. We did a review of him in
Real Bad Man.
Yep. I don't know why I got Big Bad Man. Bam Bam Bigelow, Real Bad Man collaborative project. So if you want to know our thoughts on Blu, go check that out. If you want to know our thoughts on that project, go check that out. I can tell you straight up that I don't recall being very impressed by that album all that much at all, despite being a huge fan of Blu. Yeah. And that's why I was kind of happy that this project came out, because I got to kind of express a different part of the appreciation that is one of the reasons I like Blu and I rock with Blu and I really enjoy him. Now, as for Nottz, this is our first time talking about the producer MC artist from Virginia.
Yes.
So what we like to do is we like to tell you how we know that person, or if we're familiar with him. I have been familiar with Nottz forever. I think, I'm 40 years old. I think the first time I heard Nottz was off the Lyricist Lounge project.
Okay.
I don't necessarily remember being like, oh, this one was produced by Nottz, but I definitely, when I was looking through his discography, I was like, oh yeah, of course, I'm familiar with that. Nottz is somebody who he's not quite at that level where people talk about him like a fucking, I don't know, name somebody that produced on the Jay-Z album.
Right.
But he is an artist who has been putting it down with mainstream underground, independent underground, and every single aspect of this culture since forever. He produced on the
he's everywhere, man.
Extinction Level Event, Busta Rhymes shit, it goes back. He's got a whole page dedicated to it. He's produced for everybody.
Everybody.
Cardinal Official, everybody.
Drake. Slaughterhouse,
Diamond D,
T.I.,
fucking
Kanye.
Yeah.
He produced Barry Bonds.
Truly one of the most talented,
Method Man,
prolific,
Black Moon,
incredible,
G-Unit, 50 Cent, Scarface,
hard beats,
Exhibit,
he's
MOP.
Also fucking
Rob
dope
Digger.
rapper. Like he's incredible, and Nottz is a person that we should be making sure to champion and give his flowers while he's still fucking putting it down. And that's why I was super happy to get into this project. There's a lot of reasons I was happy to get into this project. We usually it's the three of us. It's Jet, Mega, and DJ L Spade, and we're all three different types of black folks who just happen to find ourselves in Tokyo, and we're also of different political category. Jet and I are Marxists in varying degrees of separation on ideologically and the way we approach that. DJ L Spade he calls himself a capitalist. He's Southern fried black man. I'm Nigga from the West Coast, and Jet is
European as shit.
Yeah, he's Jamaican and French,
born in the UK.
Yeah, so this album is called Afrika, and part of I want to say, how can I put it, Jet? I don't want to get into the broader thoughts on the album yet, but Let me just lay out some of the thoughts here, right? The first pillar of this channel, first and foremost, is to champion underground and independent hip-hop culture. We focus on the cats that's been doing it, the cats that are not necessarily getting reviews, the cats who've been putting it down, and that is our first and primary kind of reason for establishing this, and to discuss that music seriously. But the second aspect of it, and it's not necessarily the goal of everything that we do, but we take the music very seriously, and we like to view it within its historical context, the lineage, its ideological positions, its projections, undertones, overtones, and the things that it's really saying, because that is just a part of the leftist tradition of a ruthless critique of everything.
Yes.
And when you're talking about the culture and people that come from and radical ideas, we like to discuss those within a larger context. And so sometimes we're compelled to dive into some of the deeper themes of an album. We like to do that with music that kind of begs to be asked that. Unfortunately, sometimes if a person puts out a political project that we listen to, if we feel like it sounds like a bunch of neoliberal fucking non-politics, we're going to have to do that. And then we get a lot of people telling us that we don't understand how to listen to Decca. But
Never gonna get over that one, huh?
no,
Nick?
I'm never going to get over it. People like, don't talk to me about politics if you don't know anything about politics, you silly Western liberals. But this album is not inherently political, meaning that it is towards a political economy or towards an action.
Project, yeah.
But it does. It's not necessarily towards a project, but it does. It is sprawling, and I think that the overarching theme of this album is like a pro-black celebration in a very Afrocentric or even Garveyist, neo-Garveyist spectrum of thought.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not quite sure it gets towards a Pan-Africanism by most of the lyrics, but
It's the aesthetic of Pan-Africanism.
And I think that at the end of the discussion of the album, we will perhaps discuss Pan-Africanism versus Afrocentrism,
Yes.
because we like to do that. But straight up and down, like off rip, I fucking really, really, really enjoy the elements of this album. Blu's rapping brought me right back in. I'm quite happy to hear him barring out like this. I wasn't necessarily very happy with his approach on the Real Bad Man project. It didn't impress me. This has bars where I'm like, ugh, he's still fucking one of the illest. And sonically, Nottz is at his best too. Just amazing the way that they kind of
Some
create
of the beats
this
on this album
atmosphere.
are incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, like especially the beginning of the album. Like if we can be a bit more specific, I mean that first track, Welcome.
You're not going to try to produce that?
Me and Swahili
Kuwakari
don't have
Bisha.
like much of a history. I
Yeah,
don't
neither
speak
do I.
any Swahili.
There was a nice white woman that tried to teach us Swahili when I was in the 3rd grade. Shout out to Miss Ogden.
Okay, word.
Jumbo. But yeah, you know how they try to do it. We had a little Kwanzaa lesson. We was
What?
West Coasting. We just was like, I don't know, but we was still calling each other African booty scratchers and shit.
It is also interesting to, from like my perspective, you know, being from the UK, I think the various like African diaspora are in a more, they've taken more of a firm shape in the UK than they have in the US, right? I know a lot
Blacks
of
in
people
America
who-
have amnesia, like we
Right.
cultural amnesia.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's been taken.
Exactly.
Right? Whereas, like, you know, I know a lot of people who are like, I'm Nigerian, I'm Kenyan, I'm Ugandan.
Yeah.
You know, I'm from
Ghana.
Burkina Faso,
Yeah.
I'm Ghanaian, like whatever.
Cameroon.
From Cameroon.
Yeah.
Shouts out to Francis Ngannou, the GOAT. But,
Come on. Come on.
so, you know, you've got this Swahili theme running through the record, and there is this kind of broad, like, Africa as an entity, and you know, and that's why I do describe it as Pan-African to an extent, because I don't think it necessarily hones in on like, you know,
It's the aesthetic of Africa.
the aesthetic
All
of
African
Africa,
aesthetics,
all
yeah.
Africa, right? As opposed to the, you know, on the first track, like you do get these allusions and references to, you know, even countries that don't normally get included within the broader African conversation,
yeah.
you know, like that North Africa and West Africa, and you know,
That first track is just like all facts.
It's just all facts about
And
Africa.
he's like,
yeah.
This is how much land there is. This is how many countries there are. There's how much independent countries.
But it's
surrounded by these seas.
it does such a good job of setting the tone because the
Yeah.
beat's incredible and Blu is just like, you know, he lays it out so firmly and so clearly, and the whole album, you know,
G-Kid brings it together with
G-Kid,
that Jamaican or UK patois, English patois. Yeah,
and
it's great.
it's Africa.
Yeah.
I would, you know, go further and say, you know, obviously the G-Kid highlights like, you know, Africa as the home of the black man, the origin of the black man, and it takes till a little bit later in the album to be like, Africa is the home of everyone.
Yeah.
Right. You know, the world, like humankind comes from Africa. Homo erectus,
Right.
Sahelanthropus
Yep.
comes from Africa. You know,
The
genus
mitochondrial
Homo
is
the genus
from Africa. Yeah.
is from Africa, which was dope.
Yeah,
It was dope.
I mean, that's what I really enjoy about it. There is a sprawling number of like African world facts, historical facts. There's a bunch of a mishmash of different ideologies, science, personal experience, and different shades of blackness. This is very black album, and Blu has his positions. There's a bunch of, you'll get your you get your kind of like tapestry of the, and I say Western, but in the more specifically, I mean like the American West, because as you said earlier, a lot of black people who come from other places, have a kind of closer approximation of their lineage, whereas blackness is like, I don't know, I'm black. Like we didn't have DNA tests when I was God body. You know, we weren't doing that back then. You couldn't spit in a fucking a vial and send it in, and then they fucking send you back how fucking sub-Saharan African you were.
And even for me, it was like growing up Jamaican, being part of the Jamaican diaspora, British Jamaican, it wasn't until I was like a little older and had like a stronger understanding of Pan-Africanism, of Garvey, that I really understood Jamaica's position within the broader, African cultural landscape. Because obviously Jamaica is very, very far from Africa, even though, by blood, like most of us are Ghanaian. So there's a lot going on there. And I think this album, for the most part, is very, very successful as a celebration of that Africanness.
You've got Islam, you've got 5%ers on here, you've got the more towards new agey aspects of it, you've got your anti-colonialist perspectives, your anti-imperialist perspectives. Obviously, since it is Afrocentric, it is anti-Eurocentric in a way. Lots of thoughts about a return to the motherland. It has a fucking huge number of features on this album. Yep. We only mentioned one, but it's also even got my brother, my homie Elo Kush. Shout out to Elo Kush. I've rocked with him several times, and he's God body, peace to the gods, and I enjoy it for those reasons. Like, if we can go through some of the tracks again, like My Name with Science and PHC, like that refrain of Afrika. Like I woke up chanting it, and
the beat's so funky as well. Like I don't know where the sample's been taken from, but it's got that like Rob or like William on your board type vibe to it, or it's got that funkiness,
like a Fela Kuti type of like,
Afro
really,
beat.
And that's one of the things about the album that really connects is like you as black people, like we always tend to rejoice when because so much of the history has been the perspective of us being othered or not fully human and all of these other aspects. Like, it's really just cool to hear some evolutionary migration bars about Homo erectus coming out of Africa and populating the world. And you get your Islam, your 5%er bars in there too, and there's not really a coherent ideology that is pervasive on the album other than, hey, we black folks, we celebrate everything that's black. And to me, that is one of the issues with Afrocentrism, but it is also one of the reasons I think that it was important for myself. Like, as I was growing up, my father is a black Seminole, meaning he's a black man who was born on a Native American reservation. We have a lineage going back, being escaped enslaved people who were accepted into the Seminole tribe and eventually kind of booted from that shit too, because of how they do with blood quantum. But there is something that is just joyful about being like, word, like we're the original people, we're a part of it all. Like, everything that's dope comes from humankind, and we fucking are the ones that could be outside without getting, like fucking sun cancer, like cancer, skin cancer, even though that ain't necessarily true, but it's dope. Like Mungu, which is just God. The beat is so hard. Blu is just kind of bombing aspects about tribes, their language, with proud braggadocio and just pro level black stacking. Like, it's hard as fuck. Move fire, memes meme me if I'm me. Memes meme me if I'm me. Like, if I'm real, all y'all copying the original man. You know what I mean? Mozambique with it. You zombie. Then I'ma be cootie. Feel me, fella, femi, Nigeri, back black, the fury of the black cat. Feel me, I rap that. Blu is stacking his ass off. Like, I was listening, I was like, is that a different language? Oh no, he's saying memes me if I'm me. Bars. Fucking bars. Blu Zulu out the zoo with my zoot suit. And of course, it's like a lot of it is just like, Black Panther, Wakanda, Hoodoo, you Houdini, but it's still just like, who doesn't fuck with that? Like, it's fucking raps, you know what I mean? He's not a professor, you know what I mean? I'm not expecting a super coherent ideological position on this. I do want to talk about that a little bit, but that's just because I'm not a professor either, but I like talking about that shit.
Word. I mean, yeah, and it does, I think, sometimes come to the album's detriment. Like on My Nigga, which is probably my least favorite track on the album.
I like that shit though, just because I like the chorus.
Also, like, but again, like I'm not from that context, like British people, we don't really use that word the way that Americans use it. It doesn't quite hold the same context and meaning. There's conversations to be had whether, a biracial British person like me should even be using that word.
Yeah, true that.
But
I mean, Garveyism would say, "You're not black enough."
Right, exactly.
I'm not black enough.
But Blue, like, it's talking about like, African women with their breasts out walking around butt naked. And it's like, okay, like, when Nyerere was the prime minister of Tanzania, president, or the land that became Tanzania, it's like they had to introduce like an entire section of governance just to like include womanhood and women as part of the broader project. Right. And it's like, maybe this Afrocentric perspective falls short if like it's just like, oh yeah, and black women, they're really fucking beautiful and they got their titties out.
I would like to talk about that later
with some cake, like and I do think that it is occasionally a shortfall of the record where it's like, I'm not expecting like a Sankara-esque political project unfolding in the space of a 45-minute long rap record.
I don't have any expectation of that either, but like my big thing is like you critique the ideology and I don't have to critique the person and talk about the shortcomings of Blu in his research or the ideological like incoherence or whatever. Like at the end of the day, this is just a portion of what he's trying to express. Yes. But what I can take from it, I will have a critique about that some. But there are, even though there's a kind of like an ideological incoherence and inconsistency here, there are a lot of things on this album that still like, I'll be like, that's a little bit wild. And then somebody will say like, come inside my place and try to take all the resource away. Get up out my face, you only came to build your estate. And you'll have lines like, people talk about Wakanda, but what about Rwanda? These are real things that I have critiques of. The Western idea of blackness is almost the kind of representation of blackness in mass culture. And I don't think that that's necessarily where we should be belying our beliefs or whatever. But I would like to talk more about the album before I really start talking about the ideology, the Afrocentrism versus Pan-Africanism, as we will. But, that song, Forbidden Fruit, you see how me and Jet are bailing ourselves out by not trying to pronounce these African titles, right? Like I would never pretend like I come from that. Of course, I was at the Under One Roof bookstore with Babatunde back in the day, getting all the knowledge. I was building with the gods and things of that nature. But I'm also just a West Coast Philly-Negro, Nigapino cat that is very, very American, just like Blu, and very, very American, just like a lot of the ideology that comes out of this.
Well, from what I gather, Swahili's syllabic structure is actually very similar to Japanese. So if you're gonna like take a punt at it, you're probably gonna get it.
I just don't want to get caught slipping
or whatever. But
I just don't feel like getting caught slipping. And he bails us out. So the next song, I can do this one, Mama, also Mother, in the brackets with Black Spade, D Gray, Mickey Fax. Always so dope. And Oma, like I really like this one a lot too, because Blu and them, all of them kind of lay out a lot of their heritage and their experience. Yep. And they talk about, thinking about Africa from the West. It's very clear they're talking about like, what is Africa going to be like? Like maybe we should think about that more. And like my heritage, like Blu talks about like, my maybe great-grandfather was as white as W.D. Fard Muhammad, who was kind of the predecessor of Elijah Muhammad, and from the Moorish Science Temple. And then, they talk about people like Noble Drew Ali and even Garvey, who was one of the more well-known kind of black political figures in American in I keep on wanting to say Western, but like global, the UK isn't Western, you know what I mean? Like, right. But American, I just think about it because, it's like the world hegemony, America's kind of got the biggest guns right now, so it feels like that monopolar American world. But what I'm talking about is American blackness. But I like that on Marcus Garvey. It features Shad and Quelle Chris, the great Quelle Chris, and it's just dope. Like, you know, I am not a Garveyite. I don't rock with Garvey. Garvey himself was, you know, an avowed bourgeoisie Roman Catholic capitalist who really called for like colorism in a way. And I'm not a Garveyist. I'm a black Pan-African socialist Marxist, right? And but I like that, you know, that chant, back to Africa, back to Africa. And I like that. And you know, and I think this song in particular kind of highlights a lot of the romanticism that Americans have about Africa. They don't really know what the fuck is going on over there. It's kind of just a blob of blackness that they, you know, take pieces of and contribute to themselves. But Blu is asking, like, where would he move back to? What language would he choose to speak? What dreams would he have? Would he try to be a king and build an empire? And what kind of African would he be now that he knows he's supposed to be free? This is one of the clear examples of the kind of mysticism and essentialism and romanticism of Africa from the West, because it's kind of just like, you don't, it's not a utopia over there. I hate to break it to you, but it's also just a really good song where they're barring the fuck out, and you know, I just fucking like it.
What?
You know, like, if for all my critiques about race and as a Marxist and all the things that I think about, it's like, you know, race is, there's descriptive taxonomies and shit, but I still, you know, we black as fuck. Like, my nigga, I like that just because I like the chorus.
What?
But I'm also from the West Coast, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up in people's, you know, everybody was saying it was black. The only person who wasn't saying, like, my dad doesn't say it. My stepdad doesn't say it. But all our homies did, you know, my mom.
No, I mean, I support, you know, obviously that call of black unity. I think, you know, there's a brotherhood at play here that is very important. That's where I just feel like, I got to step out because it's not really my lane. That's not my lane. I'm British,
well, you know, like, blackness is not monolithic. Like,
No,
Spade doesn't say nigga at all either, and he's the darkest of us and the one that comes from the most southernmost aspect part of it. Like, you know, I just like it because it's a good song. It's the production's dope, the lyrics are dope, it's catchy, it's vibrant, it's fun. This album to me is like going to the fucking Legacy Lounge here in Tokyo. Yeah, everybody at the
the function. Yeah,
this is the function. Like, here in Tokyo, it's wild because when I was in America, you know, you might head nod somebody if you're in a place that's not a lot of black people, and we do that here. But when I got out here, I started to learn, like, oh, where are you from? You from Kenya? Like, having conversations with people, and it really punctuates the idea that, you know, blackness is not a monolith, and like the ideas that I have about blackness coming from America are very westernized and very distinctly different from Africans, bro.
Very pronounced in Tokyo,
bro. Black Americans are the white people of black people. No, I mean, it's just because we are so the ideological superstructure has done such a number on our thoughts about Africa and identity and who we are, and because of how pronounced our struggles are versus other parts of the world, and the dominant media that we occupy, and how everybody steals from us, we kind of put ourselves in the place of like the leadership of black identity and how to parse out and do these things. I'm not saying it's true or everybody does that, but that is part of the kind of oppression and the psychological
superstructure
that has been imposed on us. You know, self-hate and all those type of things. Colorism has a long history, but there's a specific demarcation that comes with black Americanness. Like, when I got out here and I was meeting, like, where are you from? Like, oh, dang, like, and it was interesting to me because, like, people know where they're from. Like, they know what tribe, they know, like, they might be from the same country, but like their tribes don't really rock together like that. And I was just meeting this wealth of blackness that was so strange to me as an American. It took a while, and I've been here for 10 years, and you know, there's a thing to be said about that, but the album is just damn good. The Mungu, the God joint, the remix is, oh, I skipped one. Colors, yeah. Il Camille. One of the things I was thinking about when I was listening to the album, I was like, you know what this is missing?
lady face.
A lady face. It's missing a strong black woman. It's missing a strong black woman's voice. And I was like, you know who'd be dope on this? Our girl Noname. Shout out to Noname Book Club. But I was like, she would be dope on this. But also she would add that economic element that's missing from this album too. But Il Camille, super dope. Montage 1, super dope. Cassius King, again, Cassius King has been on, he was on the last project. He was on the, what is it, Long Hot Los Angeles Summer Night joint, which was a previous project, which was a great project. Cassius King, super dope on that. Red, Black, and Green, we on that. Like, I fuck with it. I really like this. Mungu, the remix, it's got the homie Elo Kush on there. Blood Money Perez, shout out to Elo Kush, shout out to John Robinson, Size of Life. Black Shakespeare is also on this. I don't know who a lot of these people are, but I tell you what, ain't nobody fuck up this album. Everybody just makes this album better. This is a really good album. Definite Mass and Cassius King on the last song, Baba Father, which I also really enjoy. Ziomara?
Ziomara.
Hard. This album is good. This is a really strong project that brought me a lot of joy, and it made me feel as though I wanted to play this aloud around people who might feel a similar way about these messages, and people who share these kind of certain ideological points. You know, like I haven't been God body for over 20 years now, and maybe about 20 years now, but I still be rocking with the gods. I still talk to them, you know, like I do try to push them more towards scientific socialism and things like that. But yeah, this is the beauty about blackness. It is rich. It's like that No Name album. It's just like a spectrum of it.
It's nice every now and then to listen to a record on this show, talk about a record that is celebratory in nature, rather than, you know, because as leftists, it feels like a social responsibility to be deeply critical of all the structures and everything around us. But there's a lot of love on here. There's a lot of love being shown. And you know what? Again, likewise, not a Garveyite, but like back to Afrika. Like that's just been in my head for like 3 days now.
Yeah. I don't, you know, I've not romanticized that